Clemson's at Syracuse for a Friday night showdown in the Carrier Dome. Thanks for watching. Brock Page here, and I do random sports picks for fun. Clemson opened up the betting as the 21-point favorites, total at 56. Since the betting opened up, most of that early money's come pouring in on the Clemson Tigers to get the job done and the under. Currently, I have Clemson laying 22 against the spread with the total moving downward to 55.5 points. Clemson will be the heavy moneyline favorites once some odds come out, if any at all. And at the moment, 57% of the betting public has action on Clemson, so that number should continue to climb. No need to rush if you like Syracuse plus the points. If I had to take a guess, the way the money's been moving, I'd say we'll probably end up with a closing number of 23.5 to 24. I really like that number at 21 because I'm all over Clemson in this one. Against the spread, the Tigers are 2-0 on the road and 2-0 as the official road favorite. They have marquee covers over the likes of Auburn, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. They take on a Syracuse team who's covered just 1 of 3 at home and lost 2 of their last 3 outright. Like I said, I think we'll see the betting public lean toward Clemson in this one despite being on the road. I'd have to imagine we'll see this number close at around 24 points like I stated earlier. Scoring-wise, Clemson games are 3-0 to the unders in their last 3. Syracuse games are 3-1 to the unders in their last 4. All that said, I think we'll see a majority of that public money on the Tigers in the under, and I'll have to agree with them. All told, I like the Tigers minus 22 and winning it outright with the under 55.5. Next game I have for you, Washington State at Cal. Wazoo opened up 12.5 with the total at 53. As expected, most of that early money has come pouring in on the red-hot Cougars of Washington State. They're now laying 13.5 with the total moving slightly upward to 53.5. Washington State's the 5-1 money line favorites and hold 69% of the public money, so look for that spread to end up around 15 or 16 by kickoff. If you're a Wazoo bettor in this one, I don't really think there's much to panic about unless the spread gets to about 20 points, unto which they still could very well cover those points. They've been a great team against the number, covering 4 of 5 overall and going 3-1 against the spread as the favorite. They take on a Golden Bears team who lost their last 3 straight, failing to cover spreads of 28 and 16 points respectively. Wazoo is hot, and if you're leaning toward their side, I think the current spread is quite generous still. Total-wise, both teams are 3-1 to the unders in their last 4. Cal scoring just 19 points per game in those contests. All in all, I think we'll see most of the betting public on the Golden Bears and probably shift back to the under. And if those 2 scenarios persist, I wouldn't be in full agreement. I'm going to buy the hook and lean toward Washington State minus 13 and winning it outright with the under 53.5. Next matchup, Florida State at Duke. The Florida State Seminoles opened the 8-point favorites with the total at an even 45. Since the betting opened up, however, we've seen a good amount of that early money come pouring in on the Duke Blue Devils to get the job done against the spread. Currently, Florida State's now laying just 6.5 with the total moving downward to an even 42. Currently, the Noles are still the moneyline favorites at 260. If you're a Duke bettor, you might want to act quick because I have a feeling a lot of the public's jumping on this Blue Devil bandwagon. Against the spread, Duke's 2-1 at home and 2-0 against teams under 500. Duke's also 2-0 against the spread versus teams allowing less than 25 points per game. On the other side, this Florida State team is, as the experts would say, a foreclosure team. They're a dismal 0-4 against the spread overall. Things not looking good for Seminoles bettors in this one. Now, scoring-wise, we haven't seen a whole lot of points in both of these teams' games. Both ball clubs are 4-0 to the unders in their last 4. That said, the Blue Devils gave up 28 and 31 points in their last 2, respectively. Florida State's also giving up 24 points per game in their last 4 themselves. I'm going to have to lean to the over in this one. We could very well see a special teams touchdown or a pick 6, something weird like that. All told, I'm going to fully disagree with the betting public on the winner and the total. I'm buying the hook and leaning toward Duke plus 7 with Florida State winning it outright in the over 42.5. Next matchup, Michigan State, Minnesota. And folks, I'm really liking this game for myself. Michigan State opened as the 4-point favorites in the total at 40.5. Since it opened up, no movement on the spread. I still got Michigan State laying the 4 with the total moving downward to a very low 39.5. Don't see totals like that in college football that often. Might want to take a look at that a little more closely. Currently, the Spartans are laying $1.85 on the money line. And if you're betting sides and you're leaning toward the Spartans, you might want to act quickly, as just 26% of the public money's on Minnesota. Somebody's going to catch on to this at some point. I originally thought that this one could close at 7 or 8, but maybe not at this rate. Regardless, if you like Minnesota covering this one, keep in mind that the Spartans have been a great covering team thus far in the season. They're 4-1 against the spread overall and 3-0 as the favorite. They have marquee covers over the likes of Iowa and Michigan. They're going up against a Minnesota squad who's covered just 2 of 5 overall and just 1 of 3 at home. The Golden Gophers have failed to cover over the likes of Purdue, Maryland, and Buffalo. Now, after Michigan State's big win over Michigan last week, I'm really expecting a lot of that public money to continue to come in on the Spartans to cover here. Now, when it comes to the total, over bettors should come out of the woodwork in this one, as Minnesota games are 3-1 to the overs in their last 4. Easy to say that I'm going away from the public money when it comes to the scoring. All told, I like Michigan State -4 and winning it outright with the over 39.5. Next game, South Carolina at Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers opened up -2 with the total at an even 49. Since the betting opened up, most of that early money came pouring in on Tennessee to get the job done. The Vols are now laying 2.5 against the spread, with the total moving downward to 48.5. Currently, the Vols are 140 on the money line to win it. Apparently, Tennessee bettors have a short memory, or they just haven't been betting them all year, or they don't watch sports and have no idea about the turmoil in the locker room. Semantics aside, the Tennessee Volunteers are 0-4 overall against the spread for the season. They take on a South Carolina team who's 4-2 against the spread overall and a perfect 3-0 covering on the road. Most impressive, the Gamecocks are 4-0 against the spread as the official Vegas underdog. I have absolutely no idea who the public's going to back in this one by the closing number, because this early action has me all kinds of confused. Now, scoring-wise, we could very well see more of that public money come pouring in on the under. South Carolina games are just 3-1 to the unders in their last 4. Meanwhile, similar story on the other side is Tennessee games are 3-0 to the unders in their last 3 themselves. All in all, I really don't foresee any absurdly drastic line movement by the closing number this weekend for this matchup. The way the early betting's been going, maybe we'll see that total close at around 47. But all told, I'm really backing South Carolina in this one and the defense. I'll buy the hook and take SC +3, winning it outright with the under 48.5. Next matchup, Oklahoma looking to bounce back after a devastating loss at home last week. Vegas still has faith in them, though. They opened 7.5 with the total at 62.5. Not a whole lot of movement on the spread. The Sooners are still laying the 7.5, but we've seen some significant early cash come in on the over. Total's now moved up to 64.5 points in this one. Oklahoma's the 3-1 money line favorites and hold 67% of the current action. So look for that number to close closer to about 9 points on the spread. If you're laying the points on Oklahoma, I think you'll be in good company, as the Sooners are 3-2 against the spread overall. They're also a perfect 2-0 covering against teams giving up less than 25 points per contest. They have a Texas team who failed to cover over the likes of Kansas State and Maryland. Now, total-wise, we've seen a lot of unders in these Texas games. They're 3-1 to the unders in their last 4. I think their style of play should control the tempo of this game. I'm going to disagree with the betting public when it comes to the scoring on this one. All told, I'm leaning toward Oklahoma and the under 64.5. All right, next and final game for the show. I'm talking about Missouri taking on Georgia at Sanford Stadium. Missouri opened up the betting catching 28 points with the total at 56.5. Since the betting opened up, a lot of these Georgia bettors went unfazed by that massive margin. Currently, the Georgia Bulldogs are laying 30 points against the spread. We've seen just a little money come in on the over, as that line moved up to an even 57 total points. And if you're betting sides in this one leaning toward Missouri, you might just want to wait this one out a little bit longer. Currently, Missouri's catching just 31% of that public money. So you might just see yourself catching 32 to 33 points by kickoff. With all that in mind, don't think you're in the clear with all those points on your side, Missouri bettors. These guys have covered just 1 of 4 overall and are still looking to get their first outright win on the year. They got a Georgia team who's a perfect 5-0 against the number overall and 4-0 as the favorite. The Bulldogs have marquee covers over Notre Dame, Mississippi State, and Tennessee. Now, scoring-wise, Georgia games tend to stay under the total. Before last week's action, Georgia games went 3-0 to the unders in their previous 3. Similar story for Missouri games, as they're 2-1 to the unders themselves before last week's action at Kentucky. I got to disagree with the betting public when it comes to the scoring in this one. All told, I'm leaning toward Georgia laying all those points with the under 57. All right, folks, that is going to do it for me. But before I get out of here, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. And if for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, and most important, have fun. For Brock Page Productions, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.